This is a story of two disgraced people, a BBC tabloid journalist and his hired interview, a liar and self-admitted perjurer. Two men who have lost their status and will do anything to regain it. The story begins in March 2007, when BBC Panorama reporter John Sweeney and his producer, Sarah Mole, arrive at St. Hill Manor, once the home of Scientology's founder, L. Ron Hubbard. There they meet with Tommy Davis, the church's international spokesperson, to help in the development of their story. There to assist Mr. Davis is Mike Rinder, a former church executive removed 5 years earlier for a continued pattern of incompetence and gross malfeasance, who has now worked up to the position of junior assistant. With Rinder in tow, Mr. Davis tours Sweeney through St. Hill and offers to arrange full access for the BBC to the church's many buildings and facilities.
I could take you to Narconon Arrowhead, I could take you to Clearwater, I could take you to Los Angeles, to our major churches there.
Sweeney promises to get back to him on the offer, but is hiding his true intentions. Because 4 days later, Sweeney pulls the first of many stunts. Suddenly turning up unannounced in Clearwater, Florida, home to Scientology's spiritual headquarters. That evening, when Scientologists gather in celebration of the birthday of their religion's founder, he appears with his cameras, demanding entry to interview the leader of the religion, who is at that moment on stage, speaking to a packed auditorium and a worldwide televised audience. This would not be the last of Sweeney's many tabloid stunts. The next day, he and his crew appear at an opening of a new Scientology church, where his behavior towards Tommy Davis would make his agenda crystal clear.
What happens if a Church of Scientology isn't a religion, but it's a sinister brainwashing cult? They say it's a sinister, mind-changing, brainwashing, money-grubbing cult. Your organisation is nasty.
And if there was still any doubt of Sweeney's agenda, it would soon be dispelled when he then uses a prominent church building as a backdrop to interview anti-Scientologist Sean Lonsdale, a convicted drug user and sex offender who had never been a Scientologist nor been inside a Scientology church. In fact, during his entire time in Clearwater, Sweeney himself never sets foot inside a Scientology church nor interviews a single Scientologist. But later in Los Angeles, when he finally interviews prominent Scientologists who can provide him with the truth about Scientology, his behavior is callous, insulting, and bullying.
What happens if it is a brainwashing cult? It's just a money-raising cult. Others say that it's just a PR stunt. It's mumbo-jumbo, but it's a rip-off. It tells people rubbish and it warps their mind. The reason you were saying this is that you've been, in some sense, brainwashed. You must be brainwashed. Is it possible that you might be brainwashed? If you were brainwashed, you would say that though, wouldn't you?
Do I look brainwashed to you? How dare you?
Despite this rude behavior, Tommy Davis gives a reluctant Sweeney and his crew a full tour of every church building at Scientology's main Los Angeles complex. But John Sweeney shows little interest and insists he is out of time. And instead of accepting Mr. Davis's offer to tour Golden Era Productions, the church's central audio-visual production facility, he declines. But the next day, he hires a helicopter and buzzes the property. Then he stages another stunt, landing nearby and driving his cameras to an unmanned security gate directly across from the main entrance, where he demands on-the-spot interviews with officials he knows are not there. This is just one of many staged stunts Sweeney would create for his cameras. In a San Francisco church, where he pretends to be ejected from the premises. In Los Angeles, where he bangs on a seldom-used fire door at the back of a church building, attempting to show he was being denied access. And in London, where he uses a movie premiere to harass film star John Travolta with his religious bigotry.
Sinister cult! You've been brainwashed, Mr. Travolta! Take me to all
But it is during a private visit at the Citizens Commission on Human Rights, a watchdog group established by the Church of Scientology, that John Sweeney would become most notorious for an out-of-control and shameful psychotic rant directed at his host, the church's international spokesperson, Tommy Davis.
No, Tommy, you stop! No, listen to me! You were not there at the beginning of that interview! You were not there! You did not hear or record all the interview! Do you understand?
Brainwashing is a crime
Did you understand?
against humanity.
You are quoting the second half of the interview, not the first half! You cannot assert what you're saying!
Sweeney's meltdown garnered worldwide attention and over 1 million hits on YouTube. News stories mocking John Sweeney's behavior appeared all over the media.
BBC journalist John Sweeney had been investigating the Church of Scientology when he snapped.
He was actually caught on tape ranting at a Church of Scientology official. And his on-camera freakout has put him on YouTube and the BBC on the spot.
Exposing a journalist, a critic at his worst.
Sonia, you were not there! You were not there!
That's really the best way to get the most out of an interview, I'm sure.
Yeah,
really warm them up.
Little over the top, I think.
What was that?
Who could scream the loudest? Is that what
It sounded like a seal.
If you are interested in becoming a television journalist, his behavior was a fine example of what not to do.
The resulting controversy did more than embarrass the BBC. The elite body of British investigative reporters, the Frontline Club, threw Sweeney out of its membership. Classes in 3 major universities used the example of John Sweeney to show what never to do in investigative journalism. One class counted in Sweeney's program an astonishing total of 180 violations of BBC and government broadcast codes. John Sweeney became the poster child for shoddy reporting. And Sweeney's boss, Panorama editor Sandy Smith, was forced to make the unprecedented and humiliating move of sitting in front of his own cameras to explain himself.
What happened?
It's not songs of praise, is it?
No.
A laughingstock in journalistic circles, Sweeney desperately wants to excuse his indefensible behavior to regain his former status and get revenge. And then there's Mike Rinder, disgraced within the church, unhappy with his resulting junior staff position, and resentful over Tommy Davis taking over his one-time job. That's him in the background, attending to whatever Mr. Davis needs. Shortly thereafter, without any warning, he vanishes, without a word, abandoning his religion, his family, and his wife of 35 years. Yet, inexplicably, soon afterwards, John Sweeney's producer, Sarah Mole, contacts him with an offer to talk to the BBC. At this point, Rinder seemingly declines. But Rinder's life does not go as planned. Because of his poor work ethic, he can't hold a job, and his life outside the church is a constant struggle. The next time Sarah Mole appears, he hopes his salvation is at hand, and she has brought someone else along, Marty Rathbun. Like Rinder, Rathbun is another former external affairs failure who had been removed from his position within the church for gross malfeasance. He had left the church suddenly and without warning in 2004. Rathbun is a suborner of perjury with a history of criminality. He is also a known drunk, most recently arrested and jailed in New Orleans, the most alcohol and bad behavior tolerant city in the entirety of the United States. And John Sweeney's Panorama producer Sarah Mole is happy to give them a public platform. Rinder has promised the BBC an exclusive. But what is he getting in return? And what does John Sweeney want? He wants Rinder to rewrite history. For in one of Rinder's only appearances in front of Sweeney's cameras in 2007, he told him that allegations by the BBC reporter against the church, and specifically its leader, were total lies.
Those allegations are absolute, utter rubbish. Absolute, utter rubbish.
The plan is simple: to recover his reputation, John Sweeney needs someone who will, with a straight face, pronounce to him on camera that Sweeney's infamous and shameful meltdown was, unbelievably, a brainwashing job performed on him by the church's spokesman, Tommy Davis. And who better to do this than Mr. Davis's former underling, the disaffected Mike Rinder? And who better to confirm Rinder's lies than his angry and vengeful, now best good buddy, Marty Rathbun? Rinder will tell Sweeney that he was lying in 2007 when he denied the allegations against the leader of his former religion. In short, Rinder gets a forum to attempt to destroy the man who replaced him and get revenge on church leaders. And Sweeney gets back his reputation. Is the BBC really allowing Sweeney to create a report exonerating himself for his own inexcusable psychotic rage? Apparently so. For on the 8th of December 2009, Sweeney's producer, Sarah Mole, sends an email to Tommy Davis informing him of the BBC's plans to launch a new show investigating certain vague and unspecified allegations against the Church of Scientology and its leader. That same day, the BBC also flies Sweeney's favorite two malcontents in from America, Marty Rathbun and Mike Rinder.